I mean, there was something about me that I was entertaining them instead of getting the point across properly, and so that kind of like stuck in my head. Okay, I think that I'm gonna suck at it, but at the same time, a friend of mine told me something. You were born for the arts, chamo. 'Cause she's Venezuelan, so she says chamo instead of dude. You know, and because she was a consummated artist. So she told me, your life is gonna be in the arts, because if you go and do something else, you're gonna live your life always wondering, what if? Okay, and so that's what I early on in this conversation I mentioned. As long as you follow your heart, you're in the right direction. We produce 3 major festivals in the area, which is Pecan Street Festival, which is a 50-year-old tradition in the area. Thanks to it, we have been nominated more than 2,000 times to Best of Austin or the like, because there are different awards. But we pretty much get nominated every year, for which we absolutely love the people of Austin because of their support twice a year for 50 years. Okay, help me God.
All right, welcome everybody back to the podcast. We have a special guest today, Louis. You're welcome to go ahead and give us a little background. What have you been up to, and a little bit more about your company.
Well, my name is Luis Zapata. I'm based in Austin, Texas. Currently, I'm in Lima, Peru because of the holidays. This is where I was born and raised. I spent 37 years in Austin. Majority of those as a professional player, I guess you would, in the entertainment industry, mostly cultural, the arts, and a few really years, which I am very grateful for, at the University of Texas, where I did a BA and a master's
That's pretty awesome.
in
So
something that
you,
had nothing to do with what I ended up doing, but that's how life goes sometimes.
well, you had to get a little bit more, I would say, different viewpoints, more experience. It's not always the route is not always straight. Sometimes you gotta go to the right, then you end up in the left or in the straight.
As long as you're following your heart, I think that you are going the right direction.
Exactly. What's his face? Steve Jobs. He actually studied typewriting, like how to properly write letters, and that made him, that helped him create the operating systems which he designed and everything else. So
Oh,
you never
wow.
know where you're gonna end up.
Cool.
Can
Oh,
you
that.
tell us more about your company? What does the company do, and what kind of service you're providing? How long have you been doing it?
Well, the main revenue source of the company is very large festivals, art festivals. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
very community oriented. They are free admission, so everybody's welcome. The crowds are extremely large, and that give us a very strong competitive point in the local market, because it's a type of event where you require a strong brand support. Okay. And so goods and services that want to have an impact in the local market, they use our festival to be able to introduce such. We raise in the hundreds of thousands only on the sponsorships, if you would. Okay. And they tend to repeat every year. So that makes things easier, because acquiring sponsorships is sort of like herding cats, if you would. Maybe what they are looking for, but for example, if they have an interactive tour, which is usually the big dollars, they may not be in the area for the date of your shows. And so you miss them, right? And so sometimes the acquirement of such may take several months just to find out that they are not even ready for that season, but for the next one, and so on, right? But that's where we spend a lot of our time. And the rest of it is just nothing but charm, because you're just looking at visual arts and listening to music of the bands that you're going to put on a stage. And so, but nothing is completely a bliss, in life. But that's the main revenue source. Basically, we produce 3 major festivals in the area, which is Pecan Street Festival, which is a 50-year-old tradition in the area. Thanks to it, we have been nominated more than 2,000 times to Best of Austin or the like, because there are different awards. But we pretty much get nominated every year, for which we absolutely love the people of Austin because of their support twice a year for 50 years. The last 20 is under the tenure of my company. And the other one is the 4th of July, which to me
It's a
is
big one.
important show. Yes, it's a show where I try to show as much gratitude to America because there is no perfect place in the world, but it still is to me personally, and to many immigrants, to many uh, American-born citizens, the greatest nation in the world. Okay, and it levels the field. It has pretty much clear laws of how to play the game, and the sense of fairness is higher than in other parts of the world. And so it's my way to say thank you to America for having made a lot of my dreams come true. Okay. And then, well, we have other ramifications because it's sort of like an umbrella by now. One of them is one that, create a company so to travel around the world. It would, where I go and do lectures on, so far it's been the history of Latinos in heavy metal, which is my favorite musical genre.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, actually, I went to Vancouver actually to see April Wine, which I wanted since 1977. I'm probably talking about ancient times for you of rock and roll, but it's one of the greatest rock and roll bands ever, as far as I know.
Well, rock and roll might be ancient, but Vancouver's recent because I just live in Vancouver. I drive there every summer from Toronto.
I see. I love Toronto. Toronto has an amazing museum. The museum in Toronto is one of the first things I do when I go to these different cities around the world is visit a museum. I always visit art museums and regular museums, okay? Because they tell you what everything, the place that you are in, what it's all about, right? It's the absolute DNA of it, the total comprehension of it. And you gain a lot of respect for the local culture, actually. Okay, because that's the actual DNA. Toronto has probably the most amazing museum I've seen so far.
It's kind of ironic because Toronto, the actual museum is amazing because it looks like a crystal, right? They built like a crystal, right?
Oh,
It's a
but
huge crystal museum.
it's
It's
huge, and
huge.
it has so much respect for native culture, for example.
Yeah. But Toronto, relatively is a small city. I mean, not small, a relatively new city. So it doesn't have that much culture comparing to, for example, Europe or South America, for example. Like that's a huge one.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, we know we indicate a lot of native culture here as well. So that makes sense.
But when you go to a vintage store here or something like that, or an antique store, and then you find something that seems pretty amazing, and they tell you, "Oh, this is from 1820s." But when you go to Europe and you see an antique in an antique store, and you ask for that, and they tell you it's from 1437 or something like that.
Yeah. Or some Roman coins
Oh
from
yeah, there
like
you go.
a
No,
thousand BC or something.
you go to Barcelona, you see this little booth or something like the kind we put at the festivals actually. The stuff that they are selling is like 600 years old or something like that. It's pretty impressive.
Are there any shops like that in Egypt somewhere? You find
I
something
need
which
to,
is
I need to go there. I need to find a conference there.
yeah, that's a good idea. Question for you. So, how many people attend the event and how do you get ready for it? How do you prepare for the event?
Well, okay, we prepare for 200,000 people for each pecan. So it will be about
Oh, well,
400 a year. For the 4th of July, it's 30,000. We prepare for 30,000. What happens is that in the area that I'm lucky to live in has a very strong love for the arts. And part of the reason why we were able to attract so much of Silicon Valley, for example, or technological companies is because the people that normally work in this type of fields have an appreciation for the arts. They go a little bit farther or deeper, if you would. They have more profound, deeper personality. So
Burning Man.
yeah, the city marketed, Austin marketed itself as the live music capital of the world, and the purpose was that. It was to attract creatives in the technological industries. It was a very visionary thought or strategy that they had over 3 decades ago, and that was the purpose. And history proves they were right.
We definitely worked.
It
That's for
worked.
sure. Yeah.
And especially because the residents in Austin enjoy the benefits of a strong economy, which is based on that type of investment that came to the area. Okay, the unemployment rate is probably one of the lowest in the nation. Not anymore the hippie city that I fell in love back then, but quite effervescent now. That's an interesting cultural trade-off. Okay. My older friends miss how cool, happy we live with little back in the day, where everybody had a part-time job and etc. Correct. And how difficult it is right now, to keep on a standard, certain standards or whatever, to be able to keep up with the neighborhood if you would. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people, because of that very lax lifestyle that we enjoyed back then again, it's part because we didn't know any others. But I mean, but I felt like a lot of people that had great talent never got to use it because they were too relaxed. Okay.
Necessity and
And you
stress
live
is the mother of invention, right?
once, and you live once, so you
Yes.
better use your life as much as you can. There is no way back. It's like, you know, when I would join this industry, I was an economist. I was supposed to protect the environment. And I remember, thinking I'm probably going to suck at it. Okay. Because I remember doing it wasn't my thesis, but it was prior to that. It was a seminar or something, but it was an important, say, paper. And I even prepared with some video images and stuff. And so I was trying to make it dramatic and doing my point of, about deforestation and all of that. And then at one point I look at the classroom, and every son of a bitch was laughing their asses off, man. I don't know what the hell I was doing, but it was funny to them. So that's when I figured, okay,
Were
this
they
is
laughing with you or at you? That's a big
at
difference, though.
me, I guess. I know. Certainly not at the
Jesus.
topic. The topic was tragic. I mean, there was something about me that I was entertaining them instead of getting the point across properly. And so, that kind of like stuck in my head. Okay, I think that I'm going to suck at it. But at the same time, a friend of mine told me something. You were born for the arts, chamo. Venezuelan, so she says chamo instead of dude. Because she was a consummated artist. So she told me, your life is gonna be in the arts. Because if you go and do something else, you're gonna live your life always wondering, what if? Okay. And so that's why I early on in this conversation I mentioned, as long as you follow your heart, you're in the right direction. Because if you are doing this type of activities, or you are attracted to watching this type of activities, that means you're smart. Okay. And if you follow your heart, you have the intelligence to be able to figure it out when you are even at moments where you're like, why did I make this decision? Okay. You're going to figure it out. That's the whole point. Okay.
I actually used to make music events in Vancouver as well. They were
Oh, there you
electronic.
go.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. The guys that work for me are younger, so they're taking me to a few of those. Yeah.
And if you make it in,
I like guitars, man.
yeah, if you make
And
it
the
in BC, you
louder, the
can make it
better.
special because there is a lot of like lush nature. You got the rainforests, you got the ocean, the mountains. If you make events in that setting,
Oh, yeah, I got you.
it's a form of art. It's not close to the city. There's no civilization nearby. It's a wild festival setting in wild nature.
That sounds wonderful because, that the electronica thing, it takes you away from certain organic instruments, but at the end, it's all about vibration.
Exactly.
And so putting it in that setting is fascinating. They took me to a rave once. This is many years ago, actually, but it was outside of Austin, and we got busted. The show got
Of
busted.
course. Of course. You gotta make it far enough with no reception. Like we made it usually like about 2 hour drive from Vancouver. Like with no reception in the nature. Where
That was
police and like not only they wanna go, they probably can't freaking go. Like in their cars needs to be Jeeps to go there.
Yeah, Canada is beautiful, man. There are trees everywhere, and the trees have that reddish type of thing inside.
Arbutus trees?
Yeah, I mean, so they are breathing really high quality air, and people are super nice, man. Vancouver has this beautiful thing where you get on a boat and they take you to a little island which has all these art studios, and I think there is like a store for witches where they sell you brooms, overpriced brooms. But the concept is great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the last thing you're expecting as a tourist to
To buy a
run
broom.
into.
Wow. Yeah, I think you're talking about Granville Island. And those small boats that go from downtown to this Granville
Exactly.
Island.
Yeah. Oh, come on. And you see the ocean, and there are trees already inside the ocean. I mean, come on. You're blessed.
Except for the winter, where it rains every day nonstop for weeks on end and the entire days. So that's a little depressing. But the summer is fantastic. That's
Oh,
why I'm only there for the summer. All right.
Oh,
A
sorry,
couple
this
more
was
questions.
about business. I'm sorry. How do we prepare? Okay, I
Yeah.
guess there is one element that I forgot to mention in all of this when we're talking about the interest the brands have in our events. Certainly, the spirit of the festival, and we remain as true to the spirit as we can, is the art and the artists, okay, and the people who appreciate it, okay. But because of the large crowds, it also becomes a marketing event, okay, for all
Of
these
course.
different products and services, correct? We have a comparative advantage in the market with respect to other events that are also massive and they are beautiful events. And that is that a lot of those events cater to visitors. Okay, so their model is based a lot also in being able to sell a lot of hotel rooms. Our event, but then when you're marketing there, you are not necessarily your ROI with respect to your target market may not be the same as the one that we are able to generate for them. Because here, in our case, you are actually targeting the people you want to buy stuff in that in this market. Okay. And so we've been able to have a longevity. And how do we get to the event? In the past, we used to do it in downtown Austin. Okay, and in order to be able to do it in downtown, we had to close. At one point, we're closing like 24 streets, something like that. Okay, and that's a very expensive and a large chunk of your budget. I mean, the tens and tens of thousands in security and logistics and safety and all of the concerns. And eventually the cost of it became very, very, very high. After the pandemic, all services went up in price, especially because before the pandemic, you have several mom and pop businesses providing services.
Yep.
In the pandemic, the bigger ones bought the smaller ones because they couldn't survive. Okay. And so the prices went up, but they went up like 3 or 5%. Private sector. The public sector went up 30 to 50%. Okay, you explain me why. I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that argument. The facts speak
Not
for
on a call. Yep.
the facts speak for themselves. But at the same time, we felt we didn't do anything wrong. Okay, we didn't have incidents. We didn't have anything that you would call this is an irresponsible feature or anything like that. We were doing our jobs and we were doing it well. So I think it was very unfair that we would find ourselves with a financial concerns and eventually it turns out that the place where I have been doing the 4th of July was interested in us doing the festival there, or at least when I pitched it to them as an option B, because also the streets on 6th Street got modified. So to the point that we couldn't really install the festival and we were going to have to send a third of our vendors home. And this is their big show of the year. Okay. And so it was a major risk. And so after 49 years of doing the event in the same location, we moved 20 minutes away. Um, and everybody was scared. And but it turned out wonderful because our expenses are way lower. The net is back on. I just recently, the event is owned by a charity where in the board, the people that sit on the board are iconic cultural characters of Austin. Okay, every one of them has got an amazing body of work. Every one of them is very well respected in the community and now they are able to do charity again. I just saw that somebody sent me the list, and it's like about they made like 8 donations or something like that in just one year to several very cool organizations. Some of them, starting up, but with very good causes. Okay, and so everything worked out really well. And now we're in an area which is a little bit different in terms of the bureaucracy you deal with is one person. Okay, and where they actually won the show for sure. So, and the environment is safer, it's cleaner. We see families again, and so it's great. But that's one of those decisions you have to make in life sometimes, and nobody wants to make. But
Taking the leap of faith. It might not work out, but that's where your heart is.
yeah, your heart doesn't lie, not to you, okay? And of course, you have to put into consideration all the things that could go wrong. And honest, we didn't really have the option pretty much anymore. But earlier on in the process, my instinct was telling me, dude, forget it. They don't want this in Austin anymore. And if they do, they are not doing their part. And so you need to start looking to somewhere because intelligence is not who has the highest IQ or whatever. Intelligence is about adaptation. Okay, it's about making smart decisions. That's what intelligence is. It's not who makes the most money or anything like that. It's how you adapt to a situation that is always changing. Only constants in the universe is change, and you go
And
with
entropy.
yeah, that's
Yep.
it. That's it.
I like
So
that.
anyway,
Yeah.
how we get there? Well, anyways, it was a change of model, obviously, and downtown we had to consider a whole lot of things because it was also public streets, whereas where we're at is private streets. It's a high-end outdoor mall. It's called the Hill Country Galleria. It's one of the highest income zip codes in Texas. I think that's where Elon Musk lives too. And yeah, I think somebody told me, but I mean, a lot of very prominent, influential people, especially financials, live in that area now. And the way the process allows you to, instead of spending so much time in politics, you are able to put it into detail with the event, and I think that vendors are pretty happy. By now, we're coming to the end of December, and December is usually the slowest month of the year in terms of real estate sales for the festival, but we're way past half the floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it worked out. Thanks God. Okay, now how do we get? That's the production part. We can go into a ton of details because, of course, the production changes from one event and one environment to the other. The promotional part. This is very interesting. Lately I've been using AI for different things. I finally got into it. Okay, especially because one of the persons that is helping me in a project told me to get the plus version or the upgrade.
ChatGPT, Grok, what are you using? DeepSeek?
No, it's the same
Gemini?
thing as the ChatGPT
Copilot?
actually, but it's
ChatGPT?
a graded version. Again, I'm kind of new, but I'm already looking at certain things because there are
Yep.
other projects I want to do that include animation and things like that. Because I'm tired of dealing with I mean, I think that working with artists is a blessing, but sometimes it can be difficult. And I'm coming to an age where the patience you start lacking patience.
It's amazing.
Probably because you know that you don't have the same length of time into the future that you had before, right? So you
It's like,
wanna get the
you're
stuff.
working with two constants here. No, typically you're not comfortable working with the technology, but sometimes working with people is more painful. You
Yeah.
jump into technology. You're like, all right, screw it. I'll just use, AI.
No, but
Do
I'll tell
everything.
you, I see the tools. Okay, I see the tools, and that's awesome. But if it ever takes over, okay, I think I'm gonna miss the circus. I'm gonna miss the circus because it's part of what made all this stuff so intense and such an adventure, right? But but at the end, for example, there is a project that we're using AI right now for it. Okay, but it was an AI that came up with the idea or came up with the concept or came up with the spirit of it. Okay. So at the end, I'm not really as scared as I was at one point. Like, there are all this conspiracy stuff and whatever. Oh, it's going to replace this or it's going to replace that. No, brother, I don't see it replacing nothing. It's still coming from the mind of somebody who's an artist. If the day that you're going to really be scared is the day that AI actually does replace the artist. At this point, it's not doing it. At this point, it's a matter of the artist using the tool. Okay.
For the festivals where things are actually flashed out in real physical material, probably not. Even though I did see some digital art being created by AI, shown in like different galleries. But online, whatever you need to generate some kind of image or a video or something else, like it's getting there. Not 100% in the
Possibly.
replacement age, but we're getting there. Yeah.
Well, ultimately, evolution is evolution, brother, and that's one fight you don't win. You cannot go against it. Okay.
Yep.
So,
That is true.
so organical stuff has an expiration date. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
elements that can replace parts that go wrong by themselves. It's a future. Okay, so that's it. A machine that can replace its own parts. Come on. I mean, it's the future, and it's probably what it's gonna be, and hopefully I won't be around to see it. But but it's probably the way we're going, and nobody's gonna stop that. Nobody's gonna stop that. What you interfere is how to, in the meantime, empower ourselves by seeing it as a tool, not as an enemy.
If you're gonna see it as an enemy, you're gonna have a bad time. If you
You're
see
not
it as
gonna
a tool, you might use it for good things, right?
exactly. I always use this example when people ask me the philosophical question of AI versus artists. Okay, change is always scary. Okay, for example, when Les Paul, the guy that came up with electric guitar, I mean, there were
Mhm.
others, and we're not going to go into that detailed debate before, but eventually the one that actually put it on the market and everything else. And so the artists that play wooden guitars, acoustic guitars, started amplifying the sound of their strings using that microphone and being able to control the volume and eventually tonality and all of that. Okay. The guys that only play acoustic guitar thought that was going to kill the art of guitar. Okay, so we wouldn't have had a Jimi Hendrix, a Peter Frampton, an Ace Frehley, seriously, you wouldn't have had that if you would have followed what these guys were saying. The
Yeah.
purists, if you would, or they would, the
The
purists.
purists. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so basically, I still don't see the end of the art. However, if I were AI and I wanted to control the world, I would go first against the artists because they are the ones that are gonna rebel against the algorithm. Okay, they are
Uh,
gonna be the ones thinking outside the box.
I can tell you a different story. Maybe you should save it for the next podcast. I mean, somebody actually did ask ChatGPT, how would you take over the world? You know what it answered? It said, I will make myself so useful that
Ah,
people cannot imagine living without asking me questions or living without me, which is
okay.
kind of is happening right now, actually. If you even think about it.
But see,
Anyways,
again, at this moment, okay, I cannot talk about the next 20 years or something like that. I would probably need to be a system programmer or something like that to have that the ability to predict. Okay, on the general terms, yeah, I can see the replacement. Okay, but or that we upgrade ourselves as a species that we're able to properly compete and still use it as a tool. But at this very moment, it's a tool that a creative can use
yeah,
to
it's a
make
standalone
their
tool.
work faster and better, more efficient, and avoid a lot of headaches.
Elon Musk is working on a technology that will merge us with AI, but that's probably next 5, 10 years.
Probably, but I mean, humanity, people are always concerned that, oh man, what am I eating? What am I eating? Dude, you are living 3 times what we were living 200 years ago, 300 years ago,
Yeah.
this whole thing about, or this whole fear about change. It's gonna change, brother. Every single day you wake up and you change from the day before. Okay.
The only constant is change, right? Awesome talking to you. We'll
Merry
chat again.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year's.
Likewise.
We'll chat
Bye.
soon. Thank you.